Chapter 3254. The agent couldn't wrap his head around it. But the next moment, he heard Fan Gu's scream. Chen Zhao suddenly removed Fan Gu's left hand, and then his right hand. The agent couldn't stop him in time. Everything had happened too fast and ended too fast. When Chen Zhao threw away Fan Gu's left and right hand, his broken hand ignited with black flames. This also destroyed his hope of going to the hospital to take over. Chen Zhao kicked Fan Gu's back. Monk Fan Gu's spine shattered, and he flew toward the agents. The agent's expression was awkward. The agent had no choice but to call for an ambulance. After calling the ambulance, the agent walked to Chen Zhao. "Sir, can you cooperate with us for a small investigation?" "Of course. I'm an excellent citizen. It's my duty to cooperate with the investigation. It's not that serious. I just want to ask about the conflict. It's like this." Chen Zhao looked at Xiao Jiaqiu. "My friend and I were catching up and exchanging experiences. My friend, Miss Xiao Jiaqiu has a spiritual snake. I'm very experienced in raising spiritual pets. But the old monk's spiritual pet, the golden eagle, suddenly attacked Miss Xiao's spiritual snake. I stopped it and killed the golden eagle. The old monk suddenly appeared and attacked me with the golden alms bowl. You saw what happened next." The agent took a deep breath. With a complicated expression he said, "Actually, you didn't have to be so heavy-handed. I was afraid he would take revenge. Do you know his identity?" "You mean Wutai Mountain?" "I mean Wutai Mountain. Usually, it's not easy for Wutai Mountain to intervene in a conflict like this. At least when the Special Intelligence Division is involved. If everything is as you said, Wutai Mountain is in the wrong. But you've been so heavy-handed. Even if the Special Intelligence Division intervenes, it won't be easy to deal with the aftermath." It seemed like the agent wasn't planning on siding with Fan Gu. "Then you have to protect me." Panic appeared on Chen Zhao's face. "Sir, it's not clear who's right and who's wrong," the agent said. "It's already the best outcome that we haven't arrested you, let alone protecting you." "I'll give you this amount," Chen Zhao said, lifting a finger. "Sir, our Special Intelligence Department may be short on money, but we won't go so far as to break the rules for money." "All right, since you don't want 10 million, then forget it. We'll just follow your normal procedures." "Are you talking about 10 million yuan with your finger? It's US dollars." "Sir, please wait a moment. I'll make a call to report the situation to my superior." Chen Zhao smiled. Many things in the world could be solved with money. Back in America, many things in the supernatural organization could be solved with money. Here, money could solve a lot of problems. "I'm talking about $10 million a year." The special intelligence personnel were even more excited. How much money did their special intelligence department have every year? If Chen Zhao really wanted to sponsor $10 million a year, in that case, he wouldn't have to take the green train every time he went on a business trip. At the very least, he would have to take the bullet train. While the agent was on the phone, Chen Zhao approached Xiao Jiaqiu. "Miss Xiao, are you okay?" Chen Zhao looked at Xiao Jiaqiu with a smile. Xiao Jiaqiu's body was already stiff at this moment. After personally witnessing the battle between Chen Zhao and Fan Gu, he was stunned. She already knew that she couldn't afford to offend Chen Zhao. There were two paths in front of her now. One was to tell the truth to the agent. Then, she would have to face the result of losing her reputation. The other was to cooperate with Chen Zhao. At least, she wouldn't be in danger in the short term. "I'm fine." Xiao Jiaqiu's expression was forced. "If the agent asks, I know how to answer." "Thank you. You just have to tell the truth." Chen Zhao nodded with a smile. It didn't take long for the ambulance called by the agents to arrive. It didn't look like a normal ambulance. Anyway, the agent's partner came with it. "Hello, Mr. Chen. I'm Zhou Yiren, the head of the Special Intelligence Department in East China." "Hello, Minister Zhou." Chen Zhao shook hands with Zhou Yiren. "Mr. Chen, according to my information, you're the president of the Supernatural Organization's North America region?" "Yes." Chen Zhao nodded. "Then why did you come back this time?" "I was invited back by Celestial Master Zhang." Chen Zhao told Zhou Yiren his purpose. Zhou Yiren was surprised by Chen Zhao's answer, but his information showed that Chen Zhao had indeed stayed at Dragon Tiger Mountain for quite a while. Chen Zhao's answer was basically the same as the information he had. At the same time, I've made some investments. We asked Fan Gu's statement just now. What he said seems to be different from what Mr. Chen said. Wrongdoers always defend themselves. He attacked me first and said that I'm a demon and wanted to kill me. That's the truth. Chen Zhao didn't need to explain further. Whoever the Special Intelligence Department was leaning toward was right. Based on the current situation, they probably wouldn't lean toward Wutai Mountain. Because as the perpetrator, the Special Intelligence Department hadn't taken any forceful measures against him. This meant that the Special Intelligence Department wasn't friendly toward Wutai Mountain or the Buddhists. By the way, the Supernatural Organization of North America is planning to have an exchange with the Special Intelligence Department of China. We'll be responsible for the venue and expenses. Minister Zhou, are you interested? I'm just the person in charge of the East China region, Zhou Yiren said. The Supernatural Organization of North America has just started in the past few years. Their strength isn't good, so it's already difficult for them to have an exchange with the Special Intelligence Department in East China. Also, I plan to set up some rewards during the exchange and invest tens of millions of dollars as rewards. Zhou Yiren's serious expression suddenly brightened up. It couldn't be helped. The Special Intelligence Department was too poor. They only had so little funding each year. The supernatural world was too active in the country, so they had a lot of missions. Especially at the end of the year, the people under them basically started eating instant noodles. Some people even started taking private jobs. Every time they complained to the headquarters, the people there would hold up their instant noodles and say that they were poor too. Will the exchange be held in North America or China? Both are fine, Chen Zhao said. If it's convenient, we can set it in China. If a large number of people from the supernatural world moved across borders, it would attract the attention of related departments. But the Special Intelligence Department was in charge of this. Of course, as long as the procedures are legal, the East China Special Intelligence Department welcomes the supernatural organization to visit and exchange. Chapter 3255. Chen Zhao sat in Zhou Yiren's car. Mr. Chen, I've heard a lot about you. I've heard a lot about you? Chen Zhao glanced at Zhou Yiren. Minister Zhou, you know me? I'm Celestial Master Zhang's outer disciple. I've been in the sect for 20 years. Even though I'm no longer a disciple of Mount Longhu, I still often listen to Celestial Master's teachings. The so-called teachings that Zhou Yiren spoke of were mostly to clean up after him. Then do you know that the person I hate the most is Zhang Tianyi? I know. The Heavenly Master often says that too, Zhou Yiren said. Chen Zhao did not expect Zhou Yiren to be Zhang Tianyi's disciple. It was no wonder that the Special Intelligence Department had been biased towards him ever since he came into contact with them. Logically speaking, he had beaten Old Fan to the point where half of his body was paralyzed. No matter what, he had to strengthen his control over himself, or even directly detain himself. But they did not take any such measures. Of course, it could also be due to the conflict between Buddhism and Taoism, although Buddhism and Taoism had not yet gone to the extent of fighting head-on. However, both sides had probably done this kind of dirty tricks behind the scenes many times. What's going on in Mount Wutai? That monk from Mount Wutai has been taking action all over Wuxia in the past 6 months, and he's specifically fighting against snake-type monsters, spirit beasts and magical beasts. To raise the golden eagles? Chen Zhao asked. I don't think so. Although the golden eagle is a rare thing, it's obviously not worth the old monks of Mount Wutai running around like this. Zhou Yiren said, Mr. Chen, you should be more careful this time. Those monks are not as kind as they look, especially since their strength is not weak. There are several monks like Fan Gu, and there is also Fan Gu's junior brother Fan Xian. That monk Fan Xian is the abbot of Mount Wutai. His cultivation is similar to Fan Gu's, but his methods are many times stronger than Fan Gu's. Many years ago, he had a duel with the Celestial Master, and both sides ended in a draw. At that time, the Celestial Master was already in the Shangqing realm, but Fan Gu was half a step into the Shangqing realm. Oh, that's really not weak. Regardless of whether it was a life-and-death battle, they were able to fight a Shangqing realm cultivator without being at a disadvantage. This was already praiseworthy enough, and the person was Zhang Tianyi. Who was Zhang Tianyi? He was the #1 person in the Dao sect. Even the Zhang Tianyi from 20 years ago was not someone that just anyone could provoke. But such a powerful Zhang Tianyi was actually unable to control the situation. Now Fan Xian and Fan Gu's cultivation levels were similar, which meant that they had both entered the Shangqing stage. His methods were definitely more powerful than 20 years ago. What's the attitude of the Special Intelligence Department when I became enemies with the monks of Mount Wutai? In principle, we don't advocate taking revenge for personal grudges, but you also know that some things are very difficult for us to manage. We will only try our best to calm the grudges, but if the monks of Mount Wutai look for Mr. Chen in private, we probably can't stop them. Don't you have any ideas? What do you think? At the end of the day, we're just the imperial court's lackeys. Look at Wuxia novels. The imperial court's lackeys don't have many masters. We rely more on the imperial court behind us. In other words, if we were to fight, you wouldn't care, right? We can't affect ordinary people, especially people like Mr. Chen. If we really fight, it will cause a lot of damage. We can't start a fight in the city. That's the bottom line. Zhou Yiren paused and then said, secondly, we have to reduce the casualties as much as possible. Whether it's Mr. Chen or Mount Wutai, any casualties will definitely be reported. Zhou Yiren glanced at Chen Zhao. In principle, the physical seal that Mr. Chen used on Fan Gu is actually a pretty good choice. Chen Zhao could vaguely feel that Zhou Yiren seemed to be looking forward to the conflict between Chen Zhao and Mount Wutai. Of course, Chen Zhao personally hoped that this matter would end here. On one hand, it was troublesome. On the other hand, Chen Zhao didn't want to be used as a tool. However, Chen Zhao also knew that he had crippled Fan Gu. This was already a grudge. Minister Zhou, if I really start a fight with the monks of Mount Wutai, I can't guarantee that there won't be any casualties. After all, if we fight, fists and feet have no eyes. Who can guarantee that they won't go too hard? Then let's find a remote place. Zhou Yiren's words became vague again. Chen Zhao was even more speechless. Zhou Yiren's attitude didn't seem to be persuading him at all. Instead, it seemed like he was adding fuel to the fire. Zhou Yiren sent Chen Zhao to the hotel. Mr. Chen, call me if there's anything. I'm leaving now. Goodbye. Goodbye. Not long after Chen Zhao returned to his room, Xiao Jiaqio came to his door. Mr. Chen. Xiao Jiaqio stood in front of Chen Zhao's door terrified. What's the matter? Miss Xiao. I'm here to apologize. Ha! Chen Zhao laughed. Xiao Jiaqio was an extremely egotistical person. How could she apologize sincerely? She was just scared by Chen Zhao now, so she submitted to him. As for her actions, she didn't repent at all. There was no sincerity in her apology. Whether she apologized or not, it was meaningless. She was still alive now, because it wasn't convenient for Chen Zhao to kill her. If it was convenient, Chen Zhao even wanted to blame her death on the monks of Mount Wutai. Miss Xiao, I think there's no need for this insincere apology. I didn't kill you then, so I won't kill you in the future. As long as you know what to say, and what not to say. As for what you did in the past, it's not my business or the police's business. Mr. Chen, other than apologizing, I also want to ask for your help. Miss Xiao, we don't have any deep grudges, but we're not so close that we can help each other. But other than you, I can't think of any other way. Then keep thinking. There are always more solutions than difficulties. Chen Zhao was a classic example of saying things without thinking. Mr. Chen, I'm begging you. Remember the people from the Special Intelligence Division? You can find them. They'll definitely have more ideas than me. They're the ones who said they were looking for you. Chen Zhao's expression was somewhat unhappy. Tell me, what's the matter? The Special Intelligence Division member said that the snake demon attached itself to me, causing me and the snake demon to become one. It's very likely that I'll also lose my human form. How can a possession be a fusion? That two-legged snake doesn't have that ability. Only a spirit can possess a body. He has his own body. So how can he become one with you? I don't know. But I have a feeling that the Special Intelligence Division member seems to know my situation. What did he say? He said that my situation is a bit complicated. If I want to solve my current problem, I'll need enough spiritual power. Chapter 3256. Chen Zhao smiled at Xiao Jiaqiu. Chen Zhao could only gloat at Xiao Jiaqiu. He didn't know what Xiao Jiaqiu's situation was. But he wouldn't help Xiao Jiaqiu. Chen Zhao was too merciful not to let her die on the spot. Chen Zhao also vaguely realized why he hadn't recognized Xiao Jiaqiu back then. It wasn't just Xiao Jiaqiu's aura mixed with the two-legged snakes. Everything about them seemed to be merging. Xiao Jiaqiu wanted to enter Chen Zhao's room, but Chen Zhao blocked the door. Xiao Jiaqiu's eyes seemed to be saying that she was willing to pay any price, as long as Chen Zhao was willing to help her. But Chen Zhao's attitude was firm. In the end, Xiao Jiaqiu could only leave in disappointment. Perhaps there was even some resentment. Chen Zhao contacted Steven. Steven and the film crew's filming had come to an end. It would probably take around 10 more days and some reshoots. Usually, when Chen Zhao contacted Steven, he would send him places he visited or good food he ate. It could always make Steven excited, and then he would talk trash with Chen Zhao. Knock knock. Chen Zhao opened the door and saw Zhou Yiren, his subordinates, and Xiao Jiaqiu. Chen Zhao looked at Xiao Jiaqiu in surprise. Could this woman invite the Special Intelligence Department? Mr. Chen, please come in. Chen Zhao could ignore Xiao Jiaqiu, but he had to respect Zhou Yiren. Mr. Chen, I actually came to ask for a favor from you. Chen Zhao glanced at Xiao Jiaqiu. For her? For our Special Intelligence Department. Does she have a strong background? Chen Zhao asked. She's a celebrity. I don't understand. We need to solve the funding problem, so we need to expand our influence. After the spiritual energy tide, many special departments have chosen to expose themselves. The country doesn't object to exposing them without revealing secrets. Miss Xiao is our choice. She's famous and can be considered a member of the spiritual world. She also has great potential. If we can solve her problem, she'll be a good spokesperson for us, and also our name card to communicate with the outside world. Chen Zhao rubbed his chin and was silent for a while. I'm unfamiliar with her situation. I don't know what her condition is, so I don't know how to help her. As long as I have enough magic power, it will be enough. Zhou Yiren said. He really wanted to say that he didn't have enough mana. However, Zhou Yiren was Zhang Tiany's disciple. Zhang Tiany must have told him many things about himself. Therefore, this excuse probably wouldn't work. What do you need me to do? Is there any risk? I don't like putting myself in danger. There's no risk. In fact, the reason why Miss Xiao and the snake demon she possessed appeared was that the snake demon wanted to transform into a flood dragon. But its magic power was not enough, so it needed to constantly absorb and devour flesh and blood. If the 10,000 Buddha mark can really suppress people without limit, then Buddhism would have conquered the Central Plains long ago. We Taoists wouldn't even have a chance. Then what's going on? Nothing. It's nothing. That Brahma Xian will seal your cultivation base. Back then, I was tricked by him once. Even though my cultivation base was higher than his, I couldn't do anything about it. However, it's not like he doesn't have a price for using that technique. The amount of power you're sealed is the same amount of magic power he has to pay. The difference in cultivation base between the two of you isn't something that a mere Brahma Xian can seal. So as long as you keep the 10,000 Buddha seal, he will be considered to have crippled his own cultivation base. I see. Chen Zhao secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Then wouldn't it be easier for me to kill him? You want to kill him? Don't you know that he's the hope of Wutai Mountain? I'm still the hope of our village. Chapter 3259. Right now, Fan Xian was trying to break through the barrier Chen Zhao had set up. The barrier couldn't be seen or touched. Fan Xian had a premonition. He obviously didn't want to wait for death. But Chen Zhao's world barrier was a manifestation of his power. To break through the barrier, he had to surpass Chen Zhao's power. If he had the ability, he wouldn't have to run. Chen Zhao's barrier slowly tightened. Fan Xian had less and less space to move around. He knew that he'd really met his match this time. The moment Chen Zhao activated his original form, he knew what kind of person he was facing. Last year, he'd sensed that someone had broken through to the Shangqing realm. He'd also left his mark in the world, and reached the Ascension realm. He'd never thought that he'd meet Chen Zhao in this way. He'd thought that Chen Zhao was just an ordinary cultivator. Maybe he was stronger, but he definitely wouldn't connect Chen Zhao to the person who'd broken through to the Shangqing realm. In his imagination, Chen Zhao could become the most powerful person in the world. He might not look like a sage, but he should at least have the demeanor of a master. But when Chen Zhao didn't reveal his aura, he was no different from an ordinary person. He hadn't expected to meet him here. He'd kicked the hardest iron plate in the world. The 10,000 Buddha seal might have an effect on Fan Xian, but it definitely couldn't suppress Fan Xian's full power. Even if he had to use up all his Buddhist power. Zhang Tianyi was wrong about one thing. The Buddhist energy of the Buddhist sect was different from magic energy. Outsiders mistakenly thought that Buddhist power was Dharma power. In reality, they weren't the same thing. The cultivation method of the Buddhist sect also cultivated magic power. Buddhist power was a derivative. For Buddhist cultivators, if Dharma power was their main food, then Buddhist power was a supplement or a side dish. The power of Buddhism was extremely useful in cultivation and in battle, but Buddhist power was also indispensable. It could be less but not none. If a Buddhist cultivator ran out of Buddhist power, then he'd lose control of his Dharma power and cultivation. This was an extremely terrifying thing for Buddhist cultivators. Chen Zhao wasn't in a hurry to kill Fan Xian. He just controlled her first, and then checked his body's condition. A part of his power had turned into Buddhist power. Of course, it was only a small part of his full power. The mini heaven and earth barrier had shrunk to less than half a meter in diameter. Right now it was difficult for Brahma to even raise her hand. And the barrier of the small world was still shrinking. Fan Xian had already lost control of her expression. Fan Xian lacked emotions to begin with, and she also cultivated the tranquil heart technique. He could control his emotions very well. Even when his family passed away in the secular world, he could still maintain his composure. However, this did not mean that he had no fear. Fear was also an emotion, but it was different from other emotions. In other words, fear was not only a neurological reaction, but also a physiological reaction. Other emotions are learned later in life. Only fear was something that humans were born with and mastered. At this moment, Fan Xian was terrified. This also caused his Tranquil Heart Sutra to become more and more chaotic. Chen Zhao realized that the 10,000 Buddha seal in his body was becoming unstable. It was as if Chen Zhao had found a fun toy. He slowed down the shrinking speed of the barrier between heaven and earth again. Fan Xian's expression began to change more and more. The more flustered he looked, the more unstable the 10,000 Buddha seal in Chen Zhao's body became. Brahma's palms tried to push open the barrier of heaven and earth, but his power was meaningless in the face of the barrier of the small world. Just then, the voice of the hotel customer service manager came from outside the door. Knock, knock, knock. Mr. Chen, are you inside? Mr. Chen, what happened inside? Clearly, the hotel had sensed something when Chen Zhao broke the window. Chen Zhao glanced at the door. The customer service manager had already used the hotel card to open the door, because Chen Zhao had not responded. Chen Zhao used the small world to block the door, so that the manager could not push it open. At the same time, Chen Zhao grabbed Fan Xian and flew through the window. Fortunately, it was night time and Chen Zhao was very fast. But Chen Zhao was in his original form now, so he was like a large light source. So he still left an obvious trail in the sky above the city. Chen Zhao flew toward the open sea. He flew for thousands of kilometers and found a desolate island. Then he stopped and threw Fan Xian on the ground. At this moment, Fan Xian was no longer as calm and collected as before. Only fear and helplessness were left. Mr. Chen, we can talk. You misunderstood. Chen Zhao shook his head and said calmly, there's no misunderstanding. I don't think it's a misunderstanding. Chen Zhao silently felt the 10,000 Buddha seal in his body. Right now he did not even need to try to expel it. The seal was about to collapse by itself. But it would be a problem if it stayed in his body. Chen Zhao shook it hard. The seal did not completely collapse, but he could clearly feel that it had weakened a lot. It did not have the spirituality it had before. Right now, Chen Zhao felt that the seal was on its last breath. Chen Zhao pointed at Fan Xian. Fan Xian immediately put up a golden shield. While blocking Chen Zhao's attack, he was also sent flying. At the same time, Chen Zhao felt that the 10,000 Buddha seal had become even weaker. It seemed that Fan Xian's condition also affected the seal's strength. Chen Zhao slapped Fan Xian across the air. Fan Xian had just been hit by Chen Zhao. His qi and blood were already unstable. Suddenly, Brahma heart erupted with golden light that was 10 times stronger than before. Chen Zhao took a few steps back. He was surprised that Brahma heart could still be strengthened. However, in the next instant, Fan Xian suddenly transformed into a huge rock, its entire body burning with golden flames, and soared into the sky. That speed was simply unimaginable. While Chen Zhao was distracted, Fan Xian had already flown into the clouds. Chen Zhao kicked the ground and chased after him. But the rock was just as fast as Chen Zhao. After all, even Chen Zhao himself didn't know what speed he could reach in his origin form. In this form, no instrument could measure his speed. Unless Chen Zhao went to a specialized organization and calculated it with satellite positioning. But in Chen Zhao's current state, Fan Xian's rock wasn't any slower than Chen Zhao. Fan Xian was also heavily injured. Of course, the rock was extremely fast, but it still couldn't shake Chen Zhao off. 2 beams of golden light streaked across the sky. Neither had any intention of stopping. Chen Zhao hadn't killed Fan Xian before, but he didn't plan on letting him go. As they chased, the two actually crossed the Pacific Ocean. Fan Xian grew more and more anxious. He hadn't expected that his painstakingly calculated plan would allow him to turn into flame wings and escape. Unexpectedly, Chen Zhao's speed was also shockingly fast. It wasn't any slower than flame wings. Fan Xian's condition was already very bad. He couldn't afford to waste time. So, if he couldn't shake Chen Zhao off in a short time, then he would really be dead. 2 beams of golden light streaked across the American continent and entered the Arctic Ocean. Then they flew past Greenland and entered the Atlantic Ocean. Just like that, the two chased endlessly. 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps. The two flew around the Earth a few times. They continued to chase at high speed. Chen Zhao also wanted to see how long Fan Xian could last. Chen Zhao's condition was very good. His origin form didn't burden him at all. He could easily maintain this state for 3 days and 3 nights. But what about Fan Xian? How long could he last? They flew for 2 hours. Finally, Fan Xian slowed down. Chen Zhao realized that Fan Xian's rock had decreased in altitude. They had already returned to Wuxia and were in the vicinity of Shanghai. What did Fan Xian want to do? If he wanted to use ordinary people to protect him, he should have landed in the city. Chen Zhao would definitely be wary. Why did he have to land in the suburbs? Just as Chen Zhao was hesitating, a golden net suddenly appeared in the sky. It appeared without warning and fell without warning. The golden net instantly enveloped Chen Zhao. This golden net was constructed from supreme Buddhist energy and a great divine ability. Chen Zhao gathered power for a second and suddenly tore. The golden net was torn instantly, but at that moment, a beam of blue light shot toward Chen Zhao. Chapter 3261. At the same time, Chen Zhao felt the pressure from this world. Chen Zhao opened his eyes. The power of his origin form increased again, shaking off the pressure. This world was very similar to the feathered serpent god's world. It was even more thorough. This world had been completely refined by these monks. No, it should be left behind by the ancient Buddhists. 6 Brahmin monks surrounded Fan Xian. Junior, we're facing a great enemy. We can only borrow the power of the 24 heavens formation. Fan Xian understands. Thank you, senior brothers. Fan Xian nodded. At the same time, he turned his head slightly to look at Chen Zhao in the air. No matter what, Chen Zhao was a huge problem. Fan Xian put his palms together. Senior brothers, please. Amitba. Flames of different colors burst out from the bodies of the 6 Brahmin monks. Chen Zhao looked at the 6 monks in surprise. The blue flames on one of them were the same as the one that had attacked him earlier. The other 5 were red, purple, black, white, and green. The flames on the 6 monks started entering Fan Xian's body. At the same time, the flames on their bodies transformed into the shape of a rock. Chen Zhao understood. Each of them had a part of the rock's soul in them. At the moment, they had all fused the remnant soul into Fan Xian's body. Clearly, Fan Xian also had a remnant soul. The remnant soul in his body should be the main one. After understanding the situation, Chen Zhao flew higher. Noticing Chen Zhao's actions, Fan Xian immediately said, "Stop him. Junior, calm down. We know what to do. You just need to calm down and focus on refining the flame wing soul." Chen Zhao had already discovered something. The monks wanted to borrow the power of the world to fuse with the rock's soul. Chen Zhao didn't know why the rock would split its soul into 7. However, it should be normal for one to be split into 7, and it should be abnormal for it to be combined into 1. If he stopped them from merging, the monks would definitely control the power of the world to disturb him. So, Chen Zhao decided to do the opposite. Chen Zhao rose into the sky and quickly absorbed the surrounding air and spiritual qi. A huge golden neutron star formed in the sky. In his origin form, Chen Zhao reached the extreme in all aspects. He could even form a neutron star with a few billion tons with a single thought. Then the second, the third, the fourth. Chen Zhao created dozens of golden neutron stars. The moment Chen Zhao's arm fell, dozens of golden neutron stars streaked across the sky. The 24 monks that formed the formation were shocked. They hurriedly controlled the power of the world to stop the falling golden neutron stars. Each of the dozens of golden neutron stars contained destructive power. After all, the 24 monks were not the true controllers of the world. They had only temporarily gained the authority to control the power of the world through the formation. But the rock in Fan Xian's body hadn't truly reached a bottleneck. So it couldn't fuse with the souls of the other 6. It could only suppress them with the power of the world, which was to forcefully fuse them. With the help of the world's energy, the other 6 rocks' souls could be considered to be at peace. But without the suppression of the power of the world, the other 6 rocks immediately rebelled. Soon, the second rock soul rushed out of Fan Xian's body. Fan Xian's heart-wrenching roars couldn't stop the rock soul's resistance. Chen Zhao didn't hold back. He directly attracted the second rock soul. Chen Zhao realized that the rock soul didn't resist him. The first one was very active. The second one only fused into his body after he released his aura. He didn't know if it was because he hadn't taken the chance to destroy Wutai Mountain, or was it because he wasn't able to receive the $10 billion donation. Really? I think so too. I was too impulsive. It's a famous mountain in China. I should show some respect. It's good that you think like that. Oh, where's Monk Fan Xian? You went to serve the Buddha, right? Fine. Even an idiot could understand what Chen Zhao meant. But Zhou Yiren was also secretly shocked. Who was Fan Xian? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was the top Zen. Just like Zhang Tiany's position in Taoism. No one objected to Fan Xian being the top Zen. But now, Chen Zhao had sent him to meet the Buddha. How could Zhou Yiren not be shocked? If there's nothing else, I'm going to hang up. Okay, bye. I look forward to the communication between the East China Special Intelligence Department and the North American Supernatural Organization. Bye. As soon as Chen Zhao hung up, his phone rang again. This time it was the hotel. Chen Zhao's room had been destroyed, but he was nowhere to be seen. So, the hotel thought that something had happened to him. They even called the police. Chapter 3264. Chen Zhao was at the police station now. An old acquaintance of his sat opposite him rolling. She was the policewoman he'd met when he'd returned last time. Hello, Xiao Luo. Who's talking to you? I'm asking you a question. Didn't you hear me? I heard you. I don't know what happened either. A group of strangers barged into my room and put a sack over my head. I don't know what happened next. When I woke up, I was in the wilderness. There was no one around. The surveillance shows that there wasn't a group of people at all. During the incident, only a long-haired man entered your room. Then you and the long-haired man disappeared together. That's my friend. I'm worried about him too, Chen Zhao said helplessly. You don't look worried at all. Do you really have to write worried on your face? Correct your thoughts. You're a suspect now. No, I'm a victim. Chen Zhao immediately corrected rolling. You can't interrogate me with this attitude. I'm only here to give a statement, not to record it. Rowling felt like she couldn't control her little universe anymore. Chen Zhao was asking for a beating, but she knew that she couldn't do anything to him unless she could find concrete evidence. Chen Zhao was related to the man's disappearance. However, there was no footage of the man on the surveillance. When the man came to find Chen Zhao, he seemed to have purposely avoided the camera. Why did you come back? That's weird. I'm a legal Chinese citizen. Do I need a valid reason to come back? Besides, I entered the scene legally. You should be able to find out about this. If you really need a legitimate reason, I can ask my company to issue a proof of official business. Rowling was speechless. She hated facing intellectuals the most, because most of the time, people like Chen Zhao were rebellious. Just then, Chen Zhao's lawyer arrived. This lawyer was also an old acquaintance of Chen Zhao's in China. He'd bailed Chen Zhao out last time too. He was a lawyer from Shanghai. Wei Ling. Mr. Chen, hello. Ms. Luo, we meet again. Lawyer Wei, you're a bit early. I'm catching up with Ms. Luo. Ahaha. I'm sorry, but you can catch up after I'm done with the paperwork. Wei Dan was a smart person and knew how to continue. Ms. Luo, can I take Mr. Chen away now? Rowling glanced at Chen Zhao unwillingly. Go. Don't come back. If you do, I'll definitely make you suffer. Chen Zhao was speechless. He left the police station and got into Wei Dan's car. Lawyer Wei, do you take on commercial law cases? Huh? Wei Dan was stunned. Mr. Chen, do you need legal advice for your business? Yes. Recently, I have a business deal with Director Liu of Tianhong Corporation. We have reached a general agreement, but we haven't signed the contract yet. Some of the details, contracts, and things related to domestic laws need to be handled by a professional lawyer. My own lawyer is overseas and isn't suitable for this project. It wasn't just because she was Green's sister. It was also because of her principles. Every year, Alex would accept many legal requests. Wei Ke sent Chen Zhao to the hotel entrance. Liu Yiba also got out of the car. He'd come to find Chen Zhao and coincidentally met him at the entrance. President Chen, you're finally back. I heard that you were attacked at the hotel. How is it? Are you okay? Are you pretending to have amnesia? However, he did not ask this question to seek justice for Fan Xian in the first place. Since Chen Zhao was pretending to have lost his memory, Fan Xian was probably dead. The pillar of Mount Wutai is also missing, Zhou Yiren said. I'm not interested in a bunch of monks, Chen Zhao said nonchalantly. All right. Zhou Yiren decided to change the topic. Chen Zhao clearly didn't want to talk about the monks from Wutai Mountain anymore. He was probably afraid that there would be trouble in the future. This matter couldn't be hidden even if he mentioned it. After all, Mount Wutai was not a small sect. Fan Xian and the 20 or so pillars had all disappeared in one go. The remaining monks on Mount Wutai would definitely not sit still. Even the entire Zen sect would explode. When they arrived at the eastern suburbs, there were many members of the Special Intelligence Division. They were busy setting up the formation. Xiao Jiaqio was also watching from the side. When she saw Chen Zhao and Zhou Yiren, she immediately came over to greet them. Mr. Chen, Minister Zhou. Chen Zhao nodded, his attitude rather cold. On the other hand, Zhou Yiren and Xiao Jiaqio started chatting. But they were not the same kind of people. So their topics were also very different. Speaking of which, Xiao Jiaqio could be considered someone from the supernatural world now. But in the end, she was more used to her celebrity identity. She had only agreed to help Zhou Yiren to solve her own problems. Xiao Jiaqio was a very realistic person. The benefits were clearly divided. Was she obedient before Chen Zhao now? It was only because she needed his help. Chen Zhao had only agreed to help because of Zhou Yiren. Chen Zhao was more interested in the members of the Special Intelligence Division. Chen Zhao observed the events at the scene. He discovered the difference between the Special Intelligence Division and the Supernatural Organization. The members of the Special Intelligence Division weren't weak. A few were especially outstanding, and might even be stronger than Gaia and the others. Also, their execution was something the Supernatural Organization members couldn't compare to. Perhaps it was because Chen Zhao was an undisciplined person himself. West himself wasn't a hardliner, was he? Managing the Supernatural Organization was also a free-range management. So, the supernatural organization members didn't have much discipline. Apart from Chen Zhao's words? Plus, with Chen Zhao's strength, there weren't any problems. In terms of execution, there were too many members of the Special Intelligence Division. They weren't soldiers, but their management system was very much like the army. Once an order was given, it had to be completed. It wasn't like the ambiguity of the supernatural organization. Even if they failed, Chen Zhao would cover for them. Plus, they had a clear division of labor and a wide range of knowledge in the supernatural world. Almost every member of the Special Intelligence Division knew how to look at the diagram when setting up the complicated formation. It wasn't like the supernatural organization, outstanding in a certain aspect, but mediocre in other aspects. Was there a single advantage? Erudite had its advantages too, but in a group battle, if the two sides were about the same in power, Erudite would definitely have a greater advantage. For example, Erudite? The most representative was Zhang Tianyi. Bifla was second. They were people who could turn their magic knowledge into power. Chen Zhao thought about the communication between the two organizations that he'd mentioned to Zhou Yiren. It seemed like he had to be serious. Was it just a formality? Now it seemed. The Special Intelligence Division's level was indeed much higher than the supernatural organizations. This level wasn't just reflected on individuals. It was also reflected on the whole. They could make the dozen people present into one. Each person could set up a part of the formation without interfering with each other. The supernatural organization was like that. If two people fought together, they could cooperate well. If there were more than two people, they would probably start fighting among themselves first. So when fighting, it was basically two people working together. Sometimes they would even fight alone. As for management, Chen Zhao and West weren't qualified managers. Even if they learned the management of the Special Intelligence Division, they probably wouldn't be able to learn it. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to implement it. Chapter 3266. After dark, the site was still being set up. It wasn't until the wee hours of the morning that the preparations for the formation were finally completed. This was not a pure array formation. There were also some unknown instruments and equipment set up in the surroundings. Okay, we just have to wait until midnight to officially start. Why do we have to wait until midnight? Chen Zhao asked. For that snake demon to evolve into a flood dragon, it needs the right time, the right place, and the right people. Not a single one can be missing. The right time refers to the time. The right place refers to the environment and array formation here. And the right people refers to you. Tomorrow is the opening day, where Yin and Yang meet. What Genesis Day? I've never heard of it. It's like the 24 solar terms. In the spiritual world, there are also spiritual qi solar terms. Some seasons have more Yang and less Yin, while others have more Yin and less Yang. Genesis Day is the first day of the spiritual qi solar terms. It's like the first day of the new year after New Year's Eve. Genesis Day is the first day when spiritual qi turns from more Yin and less Yang to more Yang and less Yin. It's the first day when Yin and Yang are reversed. Tell me more about the spiritual qi solar terms. After Genesis Day is bright Yang at the beginning of April. At that time, Yang qi reaches a high level. June is full Yang, and June is the month when Yang qi is the most abundant. It lasts until July 15th. Other than the Ghost Festival, it's also called Yin opening in the spiritual world. From then on, Yin qi will gradually increase. Mid-autumn will be perineum Yin, and November 5th will be full Yin. Zhou Yiren paused and said, Primordial opening, bright Yang, full Yang, opening Yin, perineum Yin, and full Yin are the 6 solar terms of the spiritual energy solar terms. Nowadays, few cultivators know about these solar terms. However, in ancient times, some cultivators would cultivate or make breakthroughs according to the spiritual energy solar terms, which would indeed be helpful to their cultivation and realms. For example, primordial opening and Yin opening, where the extreme of Yang produces Yin, or when the extreme of Yin produces Yang, are important turning points for breakthroughs and enlightenment. Another example is that if one's cultivation is of the Yang attribute or Yin attribute, one can also allocate the cultivation time according to the spiritual energy solar terms. Although Chen Zhao's cultivation leaned towards yang, he had never paid attention to things like the spiritual qi solar terms. Now that he heard Zhou Yiren's words, he felt enlightened. Although he wouldn't be able to break through immediately after listening to it, he could try his best to cultivate in accordance with the solar terms in the future. Alright, Mr. Chen, go over there and try the device. See if the input of magical power is smooth. It had been half an hour, but the two-legged snake was still the same. There weren't any obvious changes in its body. Zhou Yiren cursed silently. This guy's talent was really bad. No wonder it couldn't evolve when it was stuck on two legs. Mr. Chen, the evolution process might take longer this time. Do you have any problems? Not at the moment. Since Chen Zhao had agreed, he wouldn't leave halfway. The length of time didn't make much difference to him. Finally, after another half an hour, a tumor grew out of the two-legged snake's head. The tumor grew longer slowly, then the outer layer of skin started aging and fading, revealing a single horn. It finally had some characteristics of a flood dragon. But just then, a patch of dark clouds appeared in the sky. Zhou Yiren's heart skipped a beat. What's going on? Didn't you check the weather? Why are there dark clouds all of a sudden? Chen Zhao looked at Zhou Yiren. What happened? Mr. Chen, if it rains, you can stop using magic power. What? If I stop now, the snake's evolution will definitely fail. With the amount of magic it absorbed, it and Xiao Jiaqiu will definitely explode. I can't help it. If it rains later, there'll definitely be lightning. I know some lightning spells. I'm fine. Chen Zhao had experienced the thunder tribulation himself when he was breaking through to the ascension level. Even if the snake's evolution triggered lightning, it wouldn't be stronger than his own, so he wasn't worried. Mr. Chen, are you really fine? Chapter 3268. The two-legged snake used all its strength to transform into a flood dragon. Actually, even without Chen Zhao's threat, it had no way out. This was a formation that could only advance and not retreat. It did not seem like a natural evolution in the past. It was not a problem for him to be stuck in the middle of transforming into a flood dragon. The magic power that he was using to stimulate his bloodline was not his own. If he did not succeed, then the magic power would cause his body to explode. However, it was easier said than done to evolve into a flood dragon. What he lacked was not magic power. No matter how much magic power he used, the ultimate goal was to stimulate his bloodline. However, if one's bloodline wasn't enough, then it wasn't something that could be made up with magic power. If he could easily transform into a Jiao, he wouldn't have ended up as a half-baked Jiao back then. Nearly 3 hours had passed since he started transforming into a Jiao. Zhou Yiren watched from the side, shaking his head repeatedly. I almost gave up suspiciously. Sure enough, mud couldn't hold up a wall. Looks like I'll have to find another celebrity. Chen Zhao looked at the two-legged snake. Then, he looked at Xiao Jiaqiu, who was in the center of the formation. At this moment, Xiao Jiaqiu also seemed a little weak. A large amount of her blood essence was being absorbed by the two-legged snake. During the transformation process of the two-legged serpent, apart from absorbing magic power, it also absorbed qi and blood. But Chen Zhao only provided mana, not blood. It could only absorb Xiao Jiaqiu's qi and blood. Of course, this was a passive process that neither side could control. According to Zhou Yiren's calculations, within 2 hours, he would evolve as much as he could. It wouldn't affect Xiao Jiaqiu at all. It wouldn't be a big deal to have a bit of blood qi sucked away. At most, it would be a serious illness. They also had ways to replenish Xiao Jiaqiu's lost qi and blood. But it had been more than 3 hours. The two-legged snake did not succeed, nor did it fail. The one who was most affected was, of course, Xiao Jiaqiu, whose life force was constantly being sucked out. Finally, Xiao Jiaqiu couldn't hold on any longer and fell to the ground. At this moment, White Bird had absorbed most of the heavenly lightning in the sky. It was also full. However, after the White Bird came out of the thundercloud, it didn't return to Chen Zhao's body. Instead, it charged towards Xiao Jiaqiu in the eye of the formation. Chen Zhao frowned. He didn't know what White Bird wanted. The White Bird suddenly burrowed into Xiao Jiaqiu's body. Xiao Jiaqiu bounced up. His entire body was emitting a powerful electric current. Then, A powerful electric current rushed into the two-legged snake's body. The two-legged snake suddenly straightened up from its weakened state. The white bird flew out of Xiao Jiaqiu's body and circled above the array, before returning to Chen Zhao's body. When Zhou Yiren was watching from the side, his eyes revealed a trace of surprise. "Minister, what is that?" "I don't know. It seems to be some kind of thunder." "What thunder? Never heard of it." "Most of the lightning in this world is tribulation lightning that can exterminate all living beings. Only a small portion of it is the lightning divine ability of some living beings. This kind of divine ability contains the power of life and death. It can kill living beings, but it can also save lives. Because it cannot be cultivated, it can only be possessed by certain living beings, so it is rare in the world." Chen Zhao was far away from Zhou Yiren, but he heard what Zhou Yiren said. Chen Zhao immediately used Whitebird's power to release another bolt of lightning at Xiao Jiaqiu. Xiao Jiaqiu's body twitched again, and she stood up again. Although he hadn't fully recovered, his aura was much more stable. The white lightning also flowed into the two-legged snake through Xiao Jiaqiu's body. Finally, two sarcomas grew out from the two-legged snake's lower abdomen. It was like the horn that had grown out earlier. "Mr. Chen, increase your magical power output. Success or failure depends on this." Chen Zhao increased his magical power output. The entire formation became brighter. Xiao Jiaqiu received a huge influx of magical power. Her entire body floated into the air. However, she couldn't control her body now. Floating was a completely passive reaction. The magical power flowed through her body and into the two-legged snake. The two-legged snake's huge body stood up. It seemed like it was going to climb into the sky. Of course, it didn't have that ability. Even a serpent couldn't fly. A serpent wasn't a real dragon, so it couldn't fly. Roar! The two-legged snake let out a dragon roar. A pair of serpent claws grew out from its abdomen. Sharp spikes also extended from its back. "It's done." Zhou Yiren was relieved. The two-legged snake was no longer a snake demon. It was a serpent that everyone respected. Its strength was close to half a step into the Shangqing realm. Its body had also grown by half. It was originally 20 meters long, but now it was at least 30 meters long. A small world started forming around it. Chen Zhao was a bit surprised. The serpent was much stronger than he'd imagined. The serpent spat out an electric ball and shot it at Xiao Jiaqiu. Xiao Jiaqiu wasn't injured. Instead, she recovered in the electric ball. "Minister, that's also lightning?" "What lightning?" "That's the serpent's origin. Maybe it was affected by Mr. Chen, so it developed a second lightning element. It used its own lightning origin to recover Xiao Jiaqiu's vitality. The two of them were originally connected. I thought that they could separate after the snake demon turned into a serpent, but they became even more entangled." Chapter 3269. In the end, Chen Zhao didn't attend the banquet. It was impossible for Xiao Jiaqiu to not have any complaints about Chen Zhao. She wasn't a broad-minded woman to begin with. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call her narrow-minded. However, she knew very well Chen Zhao could crush her in all aspects. So she didn't reveal her thoughts at all. "Minister Zhou, I want to know more about cultivators. Can you tell me?" "What do you want to know specifically?" "It's mainly about cultivation." Actually, Xiao Jiaqiu had already learned a lot about the spiritual world from Lei Mu. Lei Mu was the name she'd given to the flood dragon. Because the flood dragon was lightning wood. So she just called it this name. The flood dragon didn't object either. However, she didn't get much information from Lei Mu. She even had a lot of misconceptions. After all, Lei Mu wasn't human. And he'd been sealed for decades. He didn't know much about the spiritual world either. What useful information could he give Xiao Jiaqiu? Regarding cultivation, our special intelligence department has quite a few. What level can you reach? Now that Miss Xiao has a flood dragon as a spiritual pet, and you two are connected, you're blessed. It won't be hard for you to reach the level of a flood dragon. Then what level is my flood dragon Thunder Wood in the spiritual world? Top level, Zhou Yiren said. Not just in the country, but in the entire world. Oh, Lei Mu is top level? But I think he's much weaker than Mr. Chen. You compare to Mr. Chen? Then there's no way. Since Lei Mu is top level, why can't we compare? The flood dragon is at the top, but Mr. Chun is at the top. There aren't many in the world who can compete with him. And he's also one of the best among the best. I don't think there are more than 3 who can match him, and none can defeat him. Then how can Lei Mu surpass him? If you transform into a dragon, you can barely be considered one of the best. Then how? It's not that easy. If you cultivate for 500 years, and don't die to heaven's test, you can transform. 500 years? Department head Joe must be joking with me. Of all the living beings in the world, apart from humans who can reach the pinnacle with a lifespan of 100 years, no matter how intelligent the other creatures are, it is difficult for them to reach the pinnacle within 100 years. But isn't a dragon a divine beast? Dragons are divine beasts, but they are somewhat different from what you think. There are 2 types of dragons. The divine beasts born from heaven and earth are born with the ability to penetrate the heavens and the earth. They can split into chi and travel between the mountains and rivers. They can also condense into a human form, and are called divine dragons. Zhou Yiren paused again and said, "There's another kind, like the true dragon evolved from your spiritual pet, the flood dragon. If it can transform into a dragon, it will naturally have extraordinary strength, but it's still 1,000 miles away from the divine dragon. It's already very commendable to be ranked at the top. If it wants to go one step further, it will require another 1,000 years of cultivation. In other words, the Thunderwood will never evolve again in my lifetime. There are no absolutes in this world, but it's not completely impossible. Now that the spiritual tide has arrived, there are many strange phenomena in the world, and there are many ancient treasures. If there's a chance, it's not impossible to transform into a dragon in one's lifetime, but the chances are slim. If it's so easy to reach the top, there won't only be a few in the world. Mr. Chen is probably not older than me, right? How did he cultivate? Everyone is different. Why don't you think about it? How can someone become Father Ma? And some people are still struggling to feed themselves." Everyone understood the logic, but Xiao Jiaqio was still unwilling to accept it. "Miss Xiao, you should be more open-minded about some things. If one day, can you reach Mr. Chen's level? Even the national level might give you some face. And before that, you should recognize reality." Zhou Yiren was also an understanding person. Of course he could tell. Xiao Jiaqio had a lot of complaints about him. He didn't talk about right or wrong or grievances. Some rights and wrongs were determined based on strength. Some grievances only existed because one was powerless. "Miss Xiao, let's talk about the development plan of the Special Intelligence Department. After all, you're a member now, so you need to make your own contribution." "Of course, I'll do my best to cooperate with the Special Intelligence Department's publicity work. Also, it's within the Special Intelligence Department's capabilities. I also hope that the Special Intelligence Department can support my acting career." "Is that for sure?" It's a win-win situation. Chen Zhao was as free as usual these 2 days. Every day he played and walked around. "Boss, the company has moved to a new office building. Do you want to come and take a look?" "Not anymore. I have something to do today." Yes, Chen Zhao had something to do. He had to go to an online celebrity shop. In the past few days, Chen Zhao had gone to quite a few online celebrity shops. It wasn't that the food was really delicious. He just wanted something new. If he really wanted delicious food, Chen Zhao would hire a national banquet chef. He would make a Manchu Han imperial feast for himself every day. Okay. Zhang Ting was a bit disappointed. Chen Zhao felt that he had only gone to the company once in the half a month he had been back. It was indeed a bit ridiculous. "Then go. You're still working, right? Are you coming now?" "Yes, I'll go now. Otherwise, I'll be lonely after everyone gets off work." Chapter 3270. Do we have enough money to burn? That was all Chen Zhao could say after holding it in for a long time. Connoisseurs appreciated the artistry, while amateurs enjoyed the show. Chen Zhao was a complete amateur. The scene he had just seen was indeed exciting. However, he knew that this quality would definitely cost a lot of money. "Boss, this is the climax of the movie. Not every scene needs to be this expensive, especially for 3D movies. Some scenes can be cut to control the budget," Zhang Ting said. This clip cost about 600,000 yuan per minute, and the other scenes cost less than 100,000 yuan per minute. They're all animated scenes. Why is there such a huge difference? Using a high frame count for the fighting scenes can make the movements more coherent and realistic. There's also more special effects and post-processing. All in all, it really doesn't add up to much. If it's a Hollywood movie, some special scenes can even reach $1 million per minute. However, the scene we're showing now costs 600,000 yuan per minute. It's already the best in China. Then why can't we do a Hollywood movie? Not enough skills. It's not because of the technology, it's because there's no need for it. First of all, our labor costs are cheaper. Let's take an artist as a comparison. The price of an artist of the same level in China is 10 times higher. An artist overseas can earn 5,000 to 10,000 USD per image, but 2,000 RMB in China is enough to hire a very good artist. This is a huge savings in our budget. Secondly, our production process is all done internally, unlike Hollywood's industrial style. Many of their shots are outsourced to other companies, and the same goes for their special effects. Thus, the price is naturally much higher. As for the difference in technology, there's no obvious difference in the technology of special effects. In fact, many of Hollywood's beyond grade A movies are outsourced by local special effects companies. But I think there's still an obvious difference between the special effects in China and Hollywood. That depends on the investment price. $100 million and 10 million yuan. Anyone can see the difference, Zhang Ting said with a smile. Zhang Ting smiled and said, and the movie industry itself is a high-risk industry. The domestic market is not fully mature, and 90% of the movies that are released every year are not able to recover their costs through the cinema chain. Investing $100 million in a movie budget is very likely to result in a serious loss. Zhang Ting seemed to be worried that Chen Zhao would misunderstand that the cartoon he invested in would lose money, so she added, but the domestic market environment is developing in a good direction. The most obvious change is the increase in the domestic box office. Also the channel, for example, the 3 major video websites. Chapter 3271. Zhang Ting looked back at Chen Zhao. Then he walked to the edge of the container. Chen Zhao tilted his head and looked at Zhang Ting. Zhang Ting suddenly punched the metal wall of the container. Duang! With a loud bang, an obvious fist print appeared on the metal wall. This container has been modified. Zhang Ting's face darkened. This punch didn't meet Zhang Ting's expectations. Director Zhang, don't waste your energy. This container is enchanted with talismans. Even if you die of exhaustion, you won't be able to break through this container. Old Wu's voice could be heard. Old Wu, you know who I am? Hehe. I've heard of the reputation of the Zhang clan of Eagle Swamp, so there's no need for you to repeat it. Old Wu, I've always treated you well, right? Is this how you repay me? Haha, no matter how well you usually treat me, it can't compare to money. If Mr. Zhang is willing to stay out of this matter, I will not mistreat Mr. Zhang after everything is done. Naturally, Mr. Zhang will have a share. Zhang Ting looked back at Chen Zhao and said calmly, Wu, do you know what you're doing? You don't have to worry about whether I know or not. Since I dare to do it, I have nothing to fear. Zhang Ting was furious. Her dream, her future, had been ruined by this bastard. Bang! In her anger, Zhang Ting punched the iron wall again. But even with her full strength, she could only leave a fist mark on the iron wall. If he wanted to break this container, he would need at least a few hundred punches. At this moment, the car stopped. They should have arrived at their destination. Don't worry, President Chen. I won't let anything happen to you. Chen Zhao smiled and shook his head. I'm not worried. President Chen, I'm really sorry. I didn't know you well enough. At this moment, an unknown gas suddenly surged into the container. Cough cough, Zhang Ting kept coughing. Bastard. Zhang Ting gritted her teeth and growled. However, the bewildering smoke was very choking. It should be some kind of magic used to confuse people. She felt that the flow of her magic power was incomparably slow. Then even his physical strength disappeared. His limbs felt weak, and he couldn't even stand steadily. Zhang Ting lay on the ground and turned her head with difficulty. She realized that Chen Zhao was standing there. Chen Zhao waved his hand. The smoke smelled really bad. At this moment, the container door opened. Zhang Ting suddenly felt that someone was lifting her up. It was Chen Zhao who was carrying her. She was confused as to why Chen Zhao wasn't affected. Although the smoke was targeted at her, it was not a big deal. However, this bewildering smoke did not affect cultivators or ordinary people. Will be the same, 4 limbs will be weak. Chen Zhao carried Zhang Ting and jumped off the container. The people outside were stunned for a moment. What was going on? Why was Chen Zhao fine? Was he not affected by the enchanting smoke? Chen Zhao also handed the broadcasting rights of the documentary to the studio. As for which channel it would be broadcasted on, Chen Zhao didn't care anymore. In any case, Wang He's men would make the necessary arrangements. The domestic affairs were almost settled as well. Louis Ba's side was also speeding up the bidding for the Great Mysteries Island. The current situation was basically clear, and the chips of the major companies had also surfaced. There were only 3 companies that could compete with them. However, it was hard to say who would be the winner in the end. The only regret was that they couldn't find the spy who kidnapped Chen Zhao. However, Zhou Yiren promised to continue investigating. Naturally, they would take Chen Zhao's private plane back. After a 26-hour flight, Chen Zhao and Stephen finally arrived in Los Angeles. Everything was normal at home. Chen Zhao video called his family every day. Everything was normal for the supernatural organization. There were more and more supernatural incidents that needed to be dealt with. Currently, a large number of supernatural incidents were popping up all over the United States. Some of them were caused by ghosts and monsters. However, a large portion of them were awakened ones. The past 3-night awakening pattern was no longer applicable. A large number of awakened ones did not pass the life and death retribution, and inexplicably awakened. And it brought about a certain social impact. After Chen Zhao returned to L.A., it was still 2 o'clock every day. Chen Zhao still insisted on going to the 12th floor every day. The first fire was still refining his bloodline, although the daily improvement was negligible. However, with the accumulation of time, there would still be significant improvements. To his surprise, the golden rock seemed to be affected by the first flame too. The golden rock was already in the stage of evolution. Its bloodline had not yet reached a bottleneck. The primordial flame contained infinite possibilities. President, you mentioned going to Wuxia for an exchange with the Special Intelligence Department's Wuxia branch. I've looked at it, and I personally hope to facilitate this exchange, but we have too much work to do now. Even the outer members have started accepting missions directly, and the exchange will take at least half a month. We've already accumulated more than 200 missions, and as time goes by, the workload will only increase. If we leave for another half a month, I'm afraid it will affect public security. Give me missions with detailed addresses and content. I'll try my best to complete them, Chen Zhao said. President, you'll be in charge? Yes. Missions that are straightforward and only need to kill some monsters or deliver something to run errands can be given to me. If it's a mission that requires complicated procedures, then forget it. Just set a time for the exchange. During the time, I'll be in charge of all the missions.